Hello everyone, it's Sharon, and in today's video we are going to do a cook with me. It's a meal prep for the Skinnyyish dish Chipotle skillet chicken burrito bowls. These are going to be really good. I've got everything all ready to go, and if you want to see how we made this, go ahead and keep on watching. For the marinade, you'll need a large red onion, minced garlic, cloves or jarred, chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, olive oil, oregano, cumin, salt, lime juice, and 4 cups of water. You're going to chop the onion into 4 sections to be put in the blender or food processor to mince. Next, you're going to add your garlic. I'm making 8 servings, so it called for 6 cloves. I don't ever really measure it when I'm using garlic because I love garlic. I always just put in a ton, as you can see here. Then you also need to add the Chipotle adobo sauce. It calls for 3.2 tablespoons for 8 servings. This stuff makes it spicy, so I only did about 2 tablespoons of the sauce and 1 pepper, which it did call for 1 pepper. Next, I'm going to add in some salt. It called for 3 tablespoons, but if you're using table salt, you're supposed to reduce that by half, so I did about 1.5 tablespoons of salt. Next, you're going to add in the cumin. It calls for about 4 teaspoons. I did do this, but I also made them kind of heaping teaspoons because I absolutely love cumin. It is my favorite spice of all time. Next, you're going to add in the oregano, and it calls for about 3 teaspoons of oregano. I'm not being super precise with my measurements, just good enough. Next, it wants you to add in some lime juice. It calls for fresh lime juice. I just didn't have any fresh lime juice on hand, so I used jarred. Then you need to add in a little bit of olive oil. It calls for 1.5 tablespoons. Then add in the 4 cups of water. And once that's all combined, you are just going to blend that up. Again, you can use a blender or a food processor. I have a food processor, so that is what I used. I had my husband help me with this part. We are pouring the marinade into the gallon-sized bag of chicken. You're going to squish that around really good, make sure it's all combined, and then you just stick this in the fridge. It calls for 8 hours or overnight. We just did it that morning and cooked it later that night. For the beans, you need 2 cans of pinto beans, 1 can of mild green chilies, a chipotle pepper from the adobo sauce, a bay leaf, salt, cumin, and garlic powder. So I forgot to hit record, but you need to spray your pan with some olive oil spray, and then you dump in your beans. Then I dumped in the green chilies and 1 small chipotle pepper, and it calls for more of the juice, which I reduced quite a bit. I only used about 1 tablespoon. It calls for 3. I'm sorry, it calls for teaspoons. I did use about like 1.5 teaspoons to make it not so spicy. Throw in a bay leaf and then add in your salt. It called for about 1 teaspoon. Next is the cumin, which also needs 1 teaspoon. I did a heaping teaspoon because I love cumin. And then finally the garlic powder, which is also 1 teaspoon. Again, a heaping teaspoon. You're going to take it over to the stove, stir it all together, combine it well, and then you need to bring it to a boil on probably high heat. Once it's boiling, you need to reduce the heat to medium-low, cover, and cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. I did cook mine for 12 minutes. Next is the rice. You will need 2 cups of white rice, 4 cups of water, 1 bay leaf, cumin, salt, olive oil, lemon juice, lime juice, and fresh cilantro. They do recommend that you wash your rice to remove the starch so that your rice won't be so sticky. I did do that here and I still ended up with sticky rice. It's just a challenge. Next, you will bring 4 cups of water to a boil in a medium saucepan. You need to remove the leaves of the cilantro. You don't want any of the stems in there, just the leaves. So I'm pulling off some leaves. It calls for about 1/4 of a cup. And then you are just going to dice that up nice and fine. All right, my timer is done for my beans, so it calls for you to take out the bay leaf and the chipotle pepper. So I'm just stirring everything around, making sure it's all good, and then we are going to take those out. Once they're out, I'm just going to cover it up and move it to the back burner away from that hot burner and just leave it sitting to cool down so we can make our bowls later. My water is now boiling, so I'm just going to add in the rice and stir that up. Then you add in the seasoning, which is some salt and cumin and a bay leaf. Then you throw in the olive oil, which is about 1.5 tablespoons. And then we are just going to stir that all up until combined. Then reduce your heat to low. Cover, and you're going to simmer for about 15 minutes. All right, my rice is done, and you are going to remove the bay leaf and take a fork and just fluff that rice up. Then you're going to squeeze in a whole lime and a whole lemon. I didn't have fresh, so again, I am just using it from the bottle. Once you have that all squeezed in, toss it around, mix it up really good. And once that's all combined, throw in your cilantro and again, mix that up until well combined. I love the way this looks. It looks beautiful and it also smells amazing with that fresh cilantro. Of course, cilantro's optional if you do not like it. We are moving on to cooking our chicken now after it's marinated all day. I'm throwing some olive oil into pans and heating that on medium-high heat. Once it's hot, we are just going to put our chicken breasts in. These were huge. I got them from Sam's Club and they were massive. So I had to put 2 in each skillet so it doesn't crowd the pan. And then later you will see that I do continue to cook them on a sheet pan because these were just far too fat to cook fully on the skillet without them burning completely. And you will see that I did kind of burn these just a little bit, not too bad at all. And the other side I got perfect. So once this is all cooked up nice and brown on both sides, I'm throwing it into the oven on a sheet pan at 400 degrees to finish cooking. I've chopped up my chicken and now it's time to assemble my bowls. I'm using some containers I got off Amazon. Now the measurements for this is 1/2 cup of rice with 1/2 cup of beans and then top it with chicken, which is 0 points. So you can use as much chicken as you want. I will say I would double the bean recipe in the future because we did not have enough beans and I definitely prefer the beans to rice. So definitely consider that if you do make this. Okay, so that made 8 burrito bowls. That leaves some for myself and my husband for during the week. They come out to on Blue Plan if you follow the measurements for 1/2 cup of rice, 1/2 cup of beans, and then just the chicken that's 0. It comes out to 4 points on Blue Plan. So it's really good. You can throw in some lettuce to doctor it up, add a little bit of cheese or salsa, whatever you want. I'm gonna use some of the Bolthouse Farms avocado cilantro dressing and some tortilla strips on top for when I do end up eating it, just to zhuzh it up a little bit, but it ends up being really good. It does have some spice to it, so as you saw, I did kind of kick down the spice a little bit because the first time I made it, we were sweating. So if you enjoyed, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you make this chicken dish, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye guys.